A decade ago, Jeremy Fragrance built an empire around attraction, attention, and especially compliments. This is a video from April 2017, and it currently has 6.7 million views. Videos like that popularize the notion that compliments are the ultimate fragrance reward. And I can assure you, for the longest time, all I had to do was put the word compliment in a title, and I would get at least double the views. And I'm not anti-compliment. I love getting them. I can remember a compliment I got 4 years ago, but when they become the main focus of why you wear a fragrance, that's a problem. If you've ever watched fashion YouTube, like clothing for men, you'll know you rarely hear the term compliment, and it's a simple reason. Because if you're looking for a compliment, the maximum amount of compliments, you need to wear something like this, a suit. The problem is a lot of men don't want to wear a suit all the time, and an even greater number of men don't want to wear a suit at all. They just want to wear something that reflects who they are. Now, when it comes to fragrances, it's exactly the same thing. If you're looking to maximize compliments, you want to wear something that's mass appealing and that's fairly loud, has a lot of projection. The difference is fashion people, they've learned that lesson. I don't think we've learned that lesson with men's fragrances. The problem with compliments are their short-term reward, but the long-term reward, a much better reward, is wearing something that suits your own personal values and sense of style. Here are 8 fragrances that are much more about style than they are compliments. Fragrance number 1 is Gisada Gold for men, and this is probably as close as you're going to get to a mass appealing fragrance, although it's not quintessentially mass appealing. It's often compared to the Born in Roma fragrances from Valentino, although it's not like the Intense version or Coral Fantasy, which tend to be sweeter and denser. This is the closest thing to the Extra Dose, which essentially works as a more mature Parfum version for the Born in Roma fragrances. And as soon as I got this, I sampled in comparison to the Intense version and the Extra Dose. Definitely closer to the Extra Dose, but I think overall fresher and more versatile than the Extra Dose, although definitely not as long lasting. So this opens very fresh. You're going to get lemon, bergamot, there's some ginger here, and a little bit of black pepper. Different kinds of freshness. Aromatic mid, sage, lavender, geranium, there's even a cypress note. And essentially it is a woody aromatic, although the base here is quite sweet. You're going to get a lot of ambroxan. Ambroxan is at the spine of the fragrance. So the ambroxan combined with the labdanum is going to give a resinous sweetness. It's not like a vanillic sweetness like the Intense version. It's more of a toned down, more of an ambery sweetness, more of a mature sweetness. But the interesting thing more than anything is the house. This is a house that's 13 years old and it's kind of come out of nowhere. You're going to hear a lot more about them. They're now available in 81 countries. They're also available at duty free, and that's something that normally takes a really long time, especially if you don't have a connection to one of the big fragrance conglomerates like Coty or Puig. And it's expanded super fast. So expect to see Gisada, based in Switzerland, in Zurich, a little bit more, but really enjoyed the fragrance. Fragrance number 2 is Creed's Royal Oud. And it might seem strange to have an oud fragrance on a video about tasteful fragrances, because oud is loud, it's exotic, and it's not something you think of when you think of tasteful. And yet, even though Royal Oud has more real oud than just about any other fragrance on the market, it doesn't come across as smelling like a typical oud fragrance. It's counterintuitive, but if you use oud aroma chemicals, what they do is they isolate the most robust, the most intense molecules that there are, they concentrate them, and so something that is aroma chemical oud actually smells stronger and more potent than real oud. This comes across as more of a woody fragrance. You're going to get a lot of cedar here. There's a lot of musk in the base along with angelica, so it comes across as a classy, woody, musky fragrance. While we're on the topic of Creed, Olivier Creed passed away fairly recently, and for you guys that watch the channel regularly, you know I've read the book The Ghost Perfumer, and it does not have a lot of nice things to say about Olivier Creed. However, the perfumer of this fragrance, Julien Rasquinet, puts an interesting spin on it. Basically, the House of Creed was created by Pierre Bourdon. He created all of the old school classics. He trained Jean-Christophe Hérault, who created Aventus. He also trained Julien Rasquinet, who created this. So he's got his fingers all over the house. And he had an agreement with Olivier Creed that any fragrance that was rejected, he would give it to Olivier Creed. Now, Olivier Creed was not a perfumer. He called himself a perfumer, so he wasn't the most honest guy in the world. However, what he was really good at, according to Rasquinet, was that he was the greatest fragrance evaluator of all time. So he had a bunch of formulas from Pierre Bourdon, and he only used the best ones, the ones that he knew would really work. And he did it again and again and again. So in many ways, even though he wasn't the perfumer at Creed, he is one of the greatest fragrance evaluators of all time, which puts an interesting spin on his passing. Fragrance number 3 comes from a line that's managed to do the impossible. Appeal to the youngest demographic, Gen Alpha and Gen Z, at the same time as appealing to one of the oldest, baby boomers. The line in question is the new Armani Code line. And the fragrance I'm talking about today is Armani Code Parfum. And the reason they were able to do this is that they wanted to create a fragrance that was both soft and strong. Now, they put the word strong in there. I mean, I think just because it was for men, but really they were trying to appeal to the younger generation, which does admittedly seem softer, and they're comfortable with it as compared to the older generation. Now, the odd thing about it is by making the fragrance softer, the whole line is soft, they've managed to make it also sophisticated at the same time. So the softness is interpreted as sophisticated by the baby boomers, and so it appeals to both. Now, admittedly, the Parfum, given the amount of iris here, that's not really a Gen Z note. So this one does skew more high-end, more boomer, more Gen X kind of thing. They are going for a wealthier demographic, and particularly with the Parfum. If you look at the Code fragrances, they're definitely come in a more sophisticated bottle shape, almost like a tuxedo kind of thing here. And then the big kicker here is the provenance, right? So a lot of high-end houses, when you're talking about the notes, they'll say, well, the bergamot comes from a certain place, right? For instance, here, the bergamot's from Calabria. The tonka is from Brazil. You only get that when you're going more high-end. And Armani, the regular Giorgio Armani line and the Code line does it, whereas the Stronger With You line doesn't. So, but at the end of the day, it seems to appeal to pretty much everybody. The Code line is still doing really well. This one, though, in particular, more high-end than anything. Nobody has ever accused the Dior Fahrenheit DNA of being a compliment magnet. Fragrance number 4 is Dior Fahrenheit Le Parfum. And the odd thing about the Fahrenheit DNA, that gasoline smell, which is a combination of violet leaf and leather, the odd thing about it is appealing. It's not compliment worthy, but it's appealing. And the proof of the pudding there is the fact that of the 8 flankers from the original Fahrenheit, this is the only one that survived. And the only reason it did was it was the only flanker that kept the core essence of the Fahrenheit DNA. A lot of the summer flankers, they tried to focus on a specific note to lighten things up, and people felt it was just watering it down. Whereas this one, it kept the core DNA, the violet leaf and the leather. It didn't mess with it. It just happened to add what at the time was a quite popular combination of vanilla. So the sweet element, it gave a gourmandy element. And it wasn't on top of it, it was alongside it. So this has vanilla, it has licorice, it has rum, it has a gourmandy element. But there's plenty of the Fahrenheit DNA here as well. This fragrance, I think, is a really good bridge into the original Fahrenheit. And the reason I think that's important is I honestly believe that Fahrenheit, the original men's Fahrenheit DNA, is one of the most original, fascinating DNAs of all time. For me, it's like top 5. It's absolutely spectacular. It doesn't smell like anything else. And I think a lot of people that don't like it do like this. They're familiar with the gourmandy elements. They can get familiar with the Fahrenheit DNA, and I think the more they wear this, the more likely they are to be able to transition to the original and keep that one going, because that one really deserves to hang around. Fragrance number 5 might be the very best designer fragrance made for really hot weather. It is, however, not a compliment beast. It's a fragrance made for function, not for compliments. This is Le Sel DC from Issey Miyake. And I say this because I've described this in the past as aggressively fresh. And when you're talking about aggressively anything, you're not generally talking about compliments. As I said, functional. So this is ultra, ultra fresh, and it lasts a really long time. And the hotter the weather, the more citrus notes you're going to get. And the more citrus notes you have, the more likely they are to dissipate quickly. Those molecules dissipate. So it's very hard to get a long-lasting, very fresh fragrance. This is a Quentin Bisch creation. It lasts at least 5 hours, frequently between 5 and 7 hours. If it is August and everyone's melting and you're wearing this, yeah, you might get a compliment then. But the rest of the time, no. You're just going to smell clean and fresh. And that's really what it's made for. And the amount of detail that they went to here, because it was the 30th anniversary of the original Issey Miyake, and because Issey Miyake himself was quite sick, the amount of detail they went to with this fragrance was unbelievable. They actually grew the vetiver in sand to give it a mineralic quality because it was, you know, connected to the ocean, the salt, that kind of thing. The salt note here was created from scratch by Quentin Bisch. The fact that Quentin Bisch was hired for Issey Miyake it also shows the lengths they were going to go. The fragrance really had to work, and it really did work. It's just not working for compliments. Fragrance number 6 is another functional fragrance that should be worn as much as possible, and I think it is the best fragrance in the line, but it's not the best for compliments. It's probably the least best for compliments. It is Jean Paul Gaultier's LeBeau Paradise Garden. But when I say functional, I mean this is the only LeBeau that I would wear in warm weather. Everything else is too much tonka and coconut, too much sweetness. Whereas this, and again, a Quentin Bisch creation, Quentin Bisch went to unbelievable lengths to make the tonka and the vanilla, the tonka and the coconut, the sweet coconut, to make that as wearable as possible. So you're going to get green notes, watery notes, you're going to get mint, you're going to get fig, which has a green quality, you're going to get ginger, a whole slew of things to freshen it up in a variety of ways to make this both versatile and wearable. Compliments tend to come from something sweet, something cozy. So the original LeBeau would be good. The Parfum would be even better. I mean, it's a beautiful scent. It's just totally not wearable, not to me anyway, you know, in super warm weather. And it's going to come across as, the original Parfum could be cloying in fall weather. That's how sweet it is. But this, I mean, except for maybe like the very hottest days, you could still pull this off. You're going to smell tropical. You're going to smell fun. If you have a summer barbecue, this would be fantastic. But think it's more wearability, versatility than compliments. Unless you think you can get compliments from smelling like a bar of soap, fragrance number 7 is not going to help you out. This is pour Homme de Caron. This is a fragrance that was created in 1934, right? So it's got a very old school bar of lavender soap aesthetic. It has 16 different notes. There are really only 3 you need to worry about. The main one being lavender. It's going to smell like lavender soap. The problem with lavender, though, is it's very, very sharp. And so lavender soap doesn't smell sharp. So the other 2 notes, the vanilla and the musk, we used to give it kind of a sweet soapy smell, right? So it rounds out the edges, the sharp edges of lavender. And so, yeah, you get a lavender soap feel, very traditional, very clean fragrance. And unless you think smelling like you just got out of the shower and you're soapy clean, I mean, it smells good, but it doesn't really smell like a compliment. This is more soothing, right? You think you smell a bar of lavender soap, that has a soothing feel. This is the kind of fragrance you would spray on your pillow, which I actually did for a while. That's a long story, but yeah, it's a very pleasant fragrance. It's just not a compliment piece, but it is practical. Fragrance number 8 is another functional fragrance, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but the last 4 fragrances have been kind of summer oriented because I don't know about you, but it's extremely hot where I am at the moment. So, and I'm in Canada. Fragrance number 8 is H24 Herbe Vive by Hermes, and this is meant to smell like a garden after the rain. So it's got a real cool feel to it. And this is another phenomenally good fragrance for really, really hot weather. Now, I don't think it's as good as Le Sel DC, but it's still really good. It's got an aroma chemical that I honestly thought at the time would really catch on. It's called Fizz Cool. So it creates a cooling sensation without smelling minty or citrusy. It's just cooling. And apparently if your sweat is in touch with it. It gives a cooling sensation to actually make you feel cool. Now, I haven't heard of it other than in this fragrance, but it might be early still. We might hear about that later, but it works really well. The big criticism that I hear about this is it's too green. There are a lot of green notes, but there's a pear note in the heart. And once you first notice that pear note, that little bit of fruitiness in the mid, you'll start to appreciate it. And then at that point, you'll be like, yeah, as long as you can pick up that fruity note, it's appealing. This one is not quite as long lasting as Le Sel DC either. This one is more 4 to 5 rather than 5 to 7, but it's still not bad. So anyway, I am not anti-compliment. I love my compliments, but I do think it went too far in the fragrance industry. I still think it is too much of a big deal. I think people need to focus more. I know I have. The more I've gotten into fragrances, the more I'm concerned about men's aesthetics in general. And the more important thing is your own personal style or wearing the right thing for the right occasion. It's not about compliments. And I think the best compliment you could get is wearing a fragrance that suits the occasion and suits your outfit and being complimented in that. Or even better, if somebody says, they don't even have to mention your fragrance. They'll be like, you know, I really like your style. And I think if you're cohesive in what you wear, that's the best way. So yeah, not anti-compliment, just it's gone too far. Thanks for watching.